Mishpucha. We're back again. We're here at Midweek Midrash once again, and I am joined here tonight by Kifa. Hello, Kifa. Shalom. And
Howdy.
and Yochanan. Shalom, Mahomi. Okay, so we're going to get started in just a moment. Just to make people aware, we are heading right into the high holy days. And I know there's some confusion because the Jewish calendars that are out, they're incorrect. And I know I may get some flack from Chabad or whoever is relying on those faulty calendars. Those calendars are rabbinical, and they rely on their calculations. Well, the calculations are off because they do not observe Rosh Chodesh, the new moon, which we do. And we try as much as possible to adhere to the way Yahweh, our creator, defines when a year begins and when a month begins. So while you may hear people talking about Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, it's one of the New Years, or one of the New Years in Judaism, but it's not the biblical New Year. The biblical New Year begins in the spring. And so anyway, they call the Feast of Trumpets, they've covered up its name. Feast of Trumpets is very important because you can picture trumpets blowing, the shofar blasting to welcome the King of Kings. And it's at this season when we should expect him. Now, as Yeshua said, this feast, the Feast of Yom Teruah, Feast of Trumpets, or he said when he returns, no man knows the day nor the hour. And that's kind of it's kind of a secret code for those who understand. He was telling us that he's returning some year on Yom Teruah in the fall, Feast of Trumpets. And so unfortunately, that name has been covered up by a misnomer, Rosh Hashanah, and which means head of the year. And it's not even the head of the year. It may be the tail of the year, but it's not the head of the year. So anyway, we've got the high holidays. The days of awe began. If you look at your calendar, your rabbinical calendar, it'll look like it began a month early, when in reality, that calendar is a month late. So, but we celebrated anyway. We blew our shofars, we shouted Hallelujah Yahweh. And tomorrow night, everything's gauged off that new moon. Tomorrow night begins Yom Kippur. It's Erev Yom Kippur, the eve of Yom Kippur. And we will be having our services at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night. And I'll give more, excuse me, more details about how we're going to celebrate that. So, okay. Well, let's begin with some prayer. And Kifa, I would like to ask you if you would begin.
Dear Heavenly Father, we rejoice in the ability to read your word, study your word, and understand your word. Please help us, especially in understanding your word. And we thank you for the ability of physically and mentally being able to be with you this evening. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Yes, we do. We want his presence to be with us. And it's wonderful to know that when we are worshiping him, he dwells in, he is present in the praises of his people, but also when we read his word. Um, his ruach is here, his spirit is here. Okay, so the reading for this week, and just to clarify, this reading is according to the rabbinical calendar. We kind of got caught in the spiral of reckoning the excuse me, reckoning the Torah portions with the dates and everything. So um, we're going to continue to celebrate Yahweh's holy feasts on the days, on the actual days they are, but we are also going to continue reading the Torah portions until we come to the end. And I've been seeking Yah's face on this, what we will be doing from here on out as far as the Torah readings. So I'm just waiting on him. So please keep me in prayer that I hear him clearly what he wants us to do with that adjustment, because we're off a month. Okay, so the reading tonight is Parshat Ki Tetze, and um, it begins in Devarim, Deuteronomy 21, verse 10, and then we continue on chapter 25, verse 19. And again, that's Parshat Tetze, starting Devarim, Deuteronomy 21, verse 10. Okay. I got a little bit of water down my windpipe, so I'm still working on that. Okay, verse 10. When you go out to fight against your enemies, and Yahweh your Elohim shall give them into your hand, and you shall take them captive, and shall see among the captives a woman fair of form, and shall delight in her, and take her for your wife. Then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head, and trim her nails, and put aside the mantle of her captivity, and shall dwell in your house and mourn her father and her mother a month of days. And after that you shall go in to her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. And it shall be, if you are not pleased with her, then you shall let her go at her desire. But you do not sell her at all for silver. Do not treat her harshly, since you have humbled her. Okay, so it obviously this is in wartime, and Yah is saying when you fought against your enemy, and of course he delivers the enemy into our hands. And he's saying if one of the men fighting happens to see a woman um, that he's attracted to, he brings her into his home, he takes her for his wife. But here it says she's going to shave her head and trim her nails. Um, this is where do we see the shaving of the head?
The priests. We've seen the priests shave their heads.
Yes. And that is because they're beginning a new life.
Consecration.
Mm-hmm. It's they've laid aside everything that was before, and they're stepping forward into a new life. So while it seems very drastic for a woman to shave her head, trimming the nails, I'm good with. I don't know about shaving my head. But in this case, she's a foreign woman, and she's going to start a new life being in covenant with people that she doesn't know, and with a new husband. And the whole shaving of the head it sort of resembles like when a baby is born, at least a lot of babies are born and they have no hair. So it's somewhat of a rebirth. And so to be born again, as a believer, we enter a new life. Fortunately, we don't have to shave our heads. But as Messianic believers, one of the first things you do when you decide to walk in covenant with Yahweh is you take mikvah, and that's where baptism comes from. So it's another symbol of being in the womb. When you're a baby in the womb, you're surrounded by water. And so that's when you go down into the mikvah. And when you come out, that's somewhat symbolic of being born again. And so these are all related. These are all related. And in Judaism, when a woman gets married, she automatically takes mikvah. Now, it's not saying that here in the first part of the reading, but a Jewish person would automatically know that she's getting married, so she's going to be taking mikvah. This is a new life for her. Okay. And let's see. You're not, excuse me. It goes on in 14. It says if she's not she doesn't please you, if you're not pleased with her, in other words, if there's some kind of uncleanness, part of uncleanness would be if she's not letting go of her pagan habits. If she's not letting go of her old life, she's hanging on to those things, that would not be pleasing to a husband. So then it says, then you shall let her go at her desire. That means she has the desire to leave. She's this new life of being in covenant with a new people, with Yah, a God that she didn't worship before. If she doesn't want any part of that, it's up to her. She can either stay and adapt, or she can go her way. And then it says, but you do not sell her at all for silver. So you don't make her a slave. She's free to go. You do not make her a slave. And it also says, do not treat her harshly, since you have humbled her. In other words, you've had relations with this woman. You also, she's shaved her head. That's humbling. So don't do anything anymore. Don't treat her harshly to add insult to injury. Does anyone have anything more on that?
Yes, I have a comment.
Yeah.
In prior scripture, we've read that both the native Israelites and the sojourner, if they're living within the community, they can only stay living in the community if they follow Yahweh's word and His way.
Mm-hmm.
True?
Yes.
Okay.
Now it's
So,
true, because remember Hagar?
yeah.
She was an Egyptian, and she was a handmaiden to Sarah,
Okay.
Abraham's wife. So she still kept to her ways. Anyway, make your point.
Well, it seems like this is the where we began reading here in chapter 21, verse 10. So we're in the situation was Israelites conquered some people.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a Israelite, any of the tribes, that is convinced that he should marry within his tribe, within his family, then he wouldn't be interested in this instruction anyway.
Right.
So you have a gentleman that, in his opinion, he's not finding enough women to marry. So he goes and picks upon the people that he just conquered. And I get the feeling that his friends and family would be counseling him on, be careful. She may be more trouble than she's worth. She may not want to, even though she says today, you explain to her that she's going to have to follow rules and regulations from a God that she doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, so after he explains it, then we get verse 14. And that's kind of all within a short amount of time. But if she says yes, and they get married, and 6 months later, she ends up being wayward, let me say it that way. What's he supposed to do? He's now married to her.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't got to the divorce scripture, have we?
No. Well, I mean, it's not an official divorce. Basically, it says then let her go at her desire. Because obviously she doesn't desire to remain there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think Yahweh is just trying to provide instructions for a situation. As long as the Israelites are going to be going into this area and conquering people, there's going to be women left alive. And what to do with the situation where an Israelite wants to marry, like maybe he can't find another woman from his tribe. I mean, there's all kinds of different situations in life. And so, or he gets impatient and he sees a pretty girl over there with long eyelashes. And, and so,
False eyelashes.
and Yahweh's just trying to provide some instruction here to cover that situation.
Yeah.
Maybe reading on here. Well,
I mean,
help.
basically it says, if this gal catches your eye and you want her for your wife, you can, but she's got to go through, all this. And, the whole shaving the head thing, maybe she's not too keen on that, Maybe she puts up a fight and she says, no, I'll be your wife, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to set myself apart, for anyone, let alone your God, So, but this covers, this covers if a guy should happen to, be attracted to, one of these foreign women. Mostly they would keep to their own tribe. Mostly they would keep to themselves. I mean, in ancient Israelites, it was always desirable to marry within your tribe, a distant cousin or, someone from Benjamin might not necessarily marry someone from the tribe of Asher. It's just, they try to keep things separate and in order. So, but this is kind of an unusual situation.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just seems strange that Yah said before that do not marry anybody outside, but it's kind of making that exception. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, boys will be boys.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading here.
Right.
Hormones.
Yeah.
Active hormones.
It's easy for me because Yah said no, you can't marry. So I don't have to listen. I know what he says, but I don't have to worry about these regulations.
Right.
Life's easier for when you're. Life's what they say. Life's easier for a soldier.
Yeah.
Do and when to do it and how to do it and.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from. I mean, for me, I kind of skip over the, I kind of half pay attention when they're talking about circumcision. It doesn't involve me. And this doesn't involve me. I'm not going to spy a foreign woman and want to make her my wife. It doesn't involve me.
Oh, thank the Lord.
Yeah. Right. Tui, tui, tui. Anyway. Okay. Anything else? Anything else?
Well, the topic continues in the next few verses anyway.
Yes. And I'm going to have you read 15. Let's see. Let's go 15 to the end of 21.
Who you?
You're the one that reads after me.
Oh, I'm you.
Yeah, you.
Okay.
Who is he, she?
Yeah.
15 through what?
Great. Oh no. Me is who is he is she. And when you want to call a pretty girl, maybe even a foreign girl, you say boy. Oh, the confusion begins. You know what? I take that back, Kifa. Just read from 15. Oh gosh. All right. Well, read 15 to the end.
When a man has two wives, one loved and the other unloved, and they have borne him children, both the loved and the unloved, and the firstborn son is of her who is unloved. Every once in a while, I run into scripture I have to read 3 times. Let's see. Okay, verse 16. Then it shall be on the day he makes his sons to inherit his possessions. He is not allowed to treat the son of the beloved wife as firstborn in the face of the son of the unloved, who is truly the firstborn. But he is to acknowledge the son of the unloved wife as the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he has, for he is the beginning of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his. When a man has a wayward and rebellious son who is not listening to the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and who, when they have disciplined him, does not listen to them, then his father and his mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of his city and to the gate of his city, and shall say to the elders of his city, this son of ours is wayward and rebellious. He is not listening to our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of his city shall stone him to death with stones. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst, and let all Israel hear and fear. And when a man has committed a sin worthy of death, then he shall be put to death, and shall hang him on a tree.
Wow.
Let his body not remain overnight on the tree, for you shall certainly bury him the same day. For he who is hanged is accursed of Elohim. so that you do not defile the land which Yahweh, your Elohim, is giving you as an inheritance.
Okay, so we've got the good boy and the bad boy.
Mhm.
And then you've got two sons, you've got two wives, and thank Yah that we don't operate this like this anymore. I don't think I could deal with that, being in competition with another wife. No, that ain't happening. No.
Right?
No, no, no. And we ran into this with Abraham, with or I'm sorry, with Yaakov. We ran into this with Yaakov, who had two wives and two maidservants. Boy,
Yeah.
was there confusion.
You'd think they'd
Um,
learn.
I know. I know. It just,
I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, what do they say about not learning from history? Yeah.
Doomed to
Uh,
repeat it.
yep, doomed to repeat it. So, okay, so you've got a wife, one is loved, the other unloved, but they've borne him children. See, that whole thing confuses me, because if you have a wife who's not loved, I don't know, it's like, oh, but yet she bears you a son. So something's he loved her for a moment.
He was in the flesh.
So yeah, in the flesh. Yeah, yeah. So, you know, like Kifa was saying, hormones happen. Um, but okay, so they've each born him a son, and the firstborn is of the one that is unloved. And the tendency, or probably the thinking of most people would be, well, that he's the son of the wife that I don't care too much about. So I'll prefer the son of the one that I do care about. But yeah, this is justice. This is, yeah, saying firstborn son, whichever wife, she's a wife. It's not saying, a wife and a maidservant, as in um, Abraham and Sarah and Hagar. That was a different instance. So the firstborn status was placed, on the son of the free woman, not the son of the slave woman. But here it's two free women. And I don't know, they can't have they can't have been too free to be fighting over the attention of a husband. Um, okay, so he's trying to establish justice for the son of the unloved wife. And so he gets the double portion of all that he has, and says he is the beginning of his strength. So he's young when he has this son, and so the right of the firstborn is his. And then it goes on talking about the rebellious son, wayward and rebellious. And bring him to the elders of his city, to the gate of his city. And here the son's wayward and rebellious. He's not listening to the dad or the mom. He's a glutton and a drunkard. So he's bringing shame on the name of his father. And he's breaking the heart of his mother too. So he's causing damage. He's having a good old time, but he's causing damage to his family. And it says the men of the city stone him to death with stones. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst, and let all Israel hear and fear. Now, I know there are people that say, well, the Bible, your God is so harsh, and, are we supposed to take our rebellious children out and stone them? not right away. You give them a chance, if they know that if they're sober enough to realize that there's some real punishment ahead if they continue in their wayward ways. Um, and the idea is that hopefully they will straighten up because they're given chance after chance after chance. If this is not like the first infraction. And I know there is a commentary on this that explains that in those days they would, give them quite a few chances. But when he gets so he's really doing damage, um, I think of these people who are, cause damage being a drunk driver. You gotta put a stop to them. Now, I'm not saying drag somebody out of their car and stone them, but, um, this here is to save other people, what damage could be done to other people because of the rebelliousness of that son. Um, and the commentary does say that they give him several chances to straighten up. And even to the point of pushing him out of the community. But if he keeps coming back, he wants to be part of the community, but he's not abiding by the rules. If he's not straightened up, then it gets serious. Okay. And that would
Comment?
yeah.
Okay, I have a comment that is for the verses before verse 18. Not
Mm,
this doesn't have to do with the rebellious son. It has to do with children that are begotten from um, uh, more than one wife,
mhm,
uh, whether she was loved or not. Maybe she was loved and died. Whether she was a sojourner or not. My point is, God is establishing uh, who is firstborn,
mhm,
not because of the reasoning of a human being. God would not have allowed that person to be conceived and born unless he wanted it.
mhm,
So if you are changing the firstborn, are you saying God was wrong?
mm,
So I was just thinking about that the order of birth with respect to the father,
mhm,
everything, the inheritance is passed down with respect to the father, not the mother, correct?
correct.
Okay, so the order of birth uh, according to the father um, is what it is.
Mhm,
Yah has established the first, second, third born, and we should remember that and honor that,
mhm,
regardless of who the mothers were.
right.
That's what all I wanted to say in a
Mhm,
solicit commentary.
mhm. Yeah, anything, Yohanan, or
No.
okay. Um, yeah, I think of David, King David, and well, of course, uh, Mikhail, you know, or Michal didn't have any children, but she certainly didn't have favor in the king's eyes, but he did have a child with Bathsheba, who was the second wife, and he was the one that inherited the throne. So, okay.
think too.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay. Johan?
Talking about how the unloved wife, if she has a son first, he is to remain the firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm skipping ahead to a couple scriptures, but what's coming up next, it all talks about God's order,
Mm-hmm.
proper order of things. That when we decide to do things ourselves and change that order, well, of course, that's rebellion, which is witchcraft.
Right.
So just God has, Yah has a proper order of things, and we're not to change those.
Right. Right. And he's always right. He's always right. Yep. His order is the best kind of order. Look at this messed up world, how people change things, the way he intended things to be, and then people change those things. And now you've got diseases, you've got sickness, you've got mental problems because his order has been, changed. We've allowed it. He's allowed it because we've allowed it.
We've opened the door to demons.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So let's see, 22. And then they just talked about stoning a rebellious person. And then it says, when a man has committed a sin worthy of death, then he shall be put to death, and you shall hang him on a tree. And then it goes on, let the body not remain overnight on the tree, for you shall certainly bury him the same day, for he who is hanged is accursed of Elohim, so that you do not defile the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance. So these last two lines, we see it as it's kind of a shadow. It's a peek into the death of Yeshua being hung on a tree, a cross, a tree, a beam. And it says that whoever is hung on the tree is accursed of Elohim. And that's what Yeshua did. He allowed himself to be hung on that tree. He was not worthy of death, but our sin that he took on himself, we were worthy of death. And so he took the sin on himself. So he took the penalty on himself and allowed himself to be hung on the tree. And it says, of course, for he was hanged on the tree is accursed of Elohim. He was bearing the curses, our curses. So this just jumped out at me. This is kind of a peek into how Yeshua would die, and the manner that he would die, and just everything that happened in the renewed covenant goes back to the original covenant here. We see these little peeks into the future. Any comment there? Okay.
No.
Okay, don't be shy. Okay. And I want to remind everybody also that let's see, we got a comment. Oh, okay. Oh, Kifa, you messaged me. What does the phrase let her go at her desire mean? Basically, she decides where she, whether she's going to stay or go.
Yeah, you already answered the question.
Yeah, I just saw your question. So I just wanted to make sure that those who saw your question and came in late got that answered.
Okay.
And a reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can join our chat and make a comment, bring forth a scripture, ask a question, just engage with us. Okay. All right, let's go to chapter 22. And all right. So, okay, Yohanan, if you would begin at verse 1 and read until the end of 5.
When you see your brother's ox or his sheep going straying away, you shall not hide yourself from them. Return them to your brother without fail. And if your brother is not near you, or if you do not know him, then you shall bring it to your house, and it shall be with you until your brother seeks it, then you shall return it to him. And so you do with his donkey, and so you do with his garment, and so you do with whatever your brother loses, which he has lost and you have found. You are not allowed to hide yourself. When you see your brother's donkey or his ox fall down on the way, you shall not hide yourself from them. Help him raise them without fail. A woman does not wear that which pertains to a man, nor does a man put on a woman's garment, for whoever does this is an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim.
I think we need to print that on every building in America.
I was skipped ahead to when I said there's a proper order for things. I've seen that scripture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's totally, totally out of order. And I know, there are people who will say, well, women wear slacks and, but there's a difference between, okay, going back to that time, there was a difference between the garments of a man and the garments of a woman. And that difference was the men's garments were more practical. They were shorter so that they could work in the field or work with animals. They could, be stonecutters or carpenters. They could be fighters. So they didn't wear, yes, they all wore tunics, men and women, but the tunic that the men would wear would be more masculine in the way it was put together. Women, we like to be fancy sometimes. They don't have to have their garments short. They're usually generally in the home, or maybe they're in the field, um, you know, gleaning or picking crops, or chasing after kids. So their tunics are longer, and the decoration on them would be, more feminine. The accessories that they would wear, men would wear more masculine things, and women would wear more, I can't say frilly, but because frills weren't the thing back then, but things that were, definitely you could tell the difference between a man's garment and a woman's garment. Nowadays, um, when a woman wears slacks, and that's her choice, but they should be feminine looking. She shouldn't try and imitate a man or try to fool somebody, into thinking that she's a man. And the same thing goes for men. They shouldn't put on garments that make them, look feminine, something that a woman would wear, in order to fool somebody into thinking they're a woman. We see a lot of that today. I run into people all the time, and I kind of, okay, yeah, can you give me a hint? Is this a man or a woman?
Hey,
And I mean, there are days, I mean, I like wearing dresses, I like wearing skirts, but there are sometimes they get in the way, like if I'm, working in the yard, and I don't want my legs to be, poked by thorns on rose bushes or things like that, so I wear something more protective. But I'm not gonna dress up in the same outfit that my husband wears, you know? So I think that's the difference today. If I don't have a problem with a woman wearing pants. I do have a problem with a man wearing a dress.
yes.
Um,
On that.
'cause it's yeah. Well, it's mockery. It's mockery of the order that Yah has established. And, you know, I think it's witchcraft too, because you're bending things. You're bending the rules. You're bending um, somebody's, how they see you.
Manipulation.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's witchcraft. That's that Jezebel spirit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And what I
So,
so what I say
yeah.
or to me, if like this individual I work with, some days he wants to be called Jim, and some days he wants to be called Jamie, or Jamie.
Okay.
And it's like, well, I'm not going to live a lie so you can be comfortable in yours.
Right. Yes. Right. Right. And you know what? And we shouldn't be forced to accept those things that we know that Yah is not pleased with. We want to be pleasing to Yah, so we only do what is pleasing to Yah. And agreeing with somebody's, you know, um,
Mental illness.
yeah, mental problem. Um, you can pray for them.
Yeah.
And you can try and point them I mean, we want to be kind. We don't want to go to the
Right.
extreme of going out and hunting people down that, are different from us and causing them harm. That's not what it is either. We have to be respectful, but we don't, we can't be compelled to agree with them, on that. So, um, yeah, that would not be pleasing to Yah. So, okay. Um, we kind of dwelled on that a little bit. And it does say it's an abomination to Yah.
Mhm.
Well, he established it, you know, and he's the one that created us, so he makes the rules. Before that, it's talking about, an ox or a sheep that strays away. We're supposed to be honest. I mean, this whole section is about honesty. From hiding hiding ourselves and our intent and our devices, seeing somebody's ox or sheep going astray. We're not supposed to hide ourselves. We're supposed to be upfront and say, hey brother, your ox or your sheep is, has gone. We want to be helpful. And when it speaks about brother, it's not talking about just, the son of your parents. It's speaking of people within your community. So those who are also in covenant with Yahweh. You can extend kindness outside of your community as well, but especially in your community, you know, you have to live with these people around you. So be kind. So it says, return the ox or the sheep to your brother without fail. We're not to, hang on to what is not ours. That would not be honest. And then it says, if your brother is not near you, if another member of the community is far off, or if you don't even know him, I mean, you would know your own flesh and blood brother, but maybe you don't know somebody who is part of your community. And then you bring their property, their ox or their sheep, to your own house. You keep it with you, not to keep it forever, but to take care of it and make sure it isn't not put in danger. You keep it with you until your brother who is looking for it, and then you return it to them. You may not know who it belongs to, so you'll keep it, have it stay put until you see that who it is that it belongs to. And then it talks about the same thing with his donkey, any animal belonging to him, and this the donkey, nowadays, if you find somebody's bicycle, you don't know who it belongs to, or, a car that's, been abandoned, you don't just grab it and take it for your own. You wait and see who it belongs to. And it also talks about his garment. If you find somebody's coat or hat or shoes, uh, um, their iPhone, whatever, things that belong to them. Um, whatever whatever they lose, um, that if we found what they've lost, we're not allowed to hide ourselves. We're not allowed to, keep it all a secret. That would be dishonest. Same thing with a donkey or an ox falling down. Um, you don't just hide the incident. You try and, pick up this animal. Um, okay, so that's just being honest. And so here, a woman wearing something that pertains to a man, that's not honest. If she's trying to disguise herself as a man. And the same with women, men disguising themselves as women, it's dishonest. I think of that male swimmer who was allowed to compete with women. It wasn't honest.
No.
And, whatever his mental, thing is, it's not honest. He needs to take care of, that issue first.
Make a comment.
Yeah.
Talking about the ox and the donkey and whatnot, any livestock back then, that was a person's livelihood. Their life may, their life depended on it. So if they didn't have those animals, they could very well die.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a matter of safety and sustaining oneself.
Right. They used to hang horse thieves.
Yeah, it's still on the books in Texas.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's their livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
That's their ability to get to a doctor. That's their ability to, if they've got a mule that, they use to plow a field or do heavy work, and they can't do their work unless they have their animal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is all being honest. Okay. All right. I guess it's my turn. Verse 6. When you come upon a bird's nest along the way, in any tree or on the ground, with young ones or eggs, with a mother sitting on the young or on the eggs, do not take the mother with the young. Let the mother go without fail, and take the young for yourself, so that it might be well with you, and that you shall prolong your days. When you build a new house, then you shall make a parapet for your roof, so that you do not bring blood guilt on your house when one falls from it. Do not sow your vineyard with different kinds of seeds, lest the yield of the seed which you have sown and the fruit of your vineyard be defiled. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey together. Do not put on a garment of different kinds, of wool and linen together. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. This is about separation, and the reasons for separation. Here at first you come along a bird's nest, either in the tree or on the ground, and the mother's sitting on the eggs. Don't take the mother with the young. You can help yourself to the eggs. And I think of, if you're raising chickens, what are you doing? The hen is sitting on the eggs. Of course, you're going to try and reach and grab some of the eggs. That's the reason you got this chicken. But you don't harm the mother. because you want to continue having more eggs. And if it's a mother bird, she will have more eggs. But if you need these eggs, to survive, you can take them. But don't take the mother with the young. And so you shall prolong your days. It just kind of gives me the idea that anybody who would eat a bird's egg really must be hungry. So this is a necessity, but you separate the young from the mother who can lay more eggs. Then when you build a new house, you shall make a parapet for your roof. A parapet is a kind of a something that surrounds the edges of the roof, like a fence, so that somebody wouldn't fall off, a sloped roof, and hurt themselves or be killed. So this is, in a way, it's separating. You want to separate the person who may be on your roof from the ground below. And then do not sow your vineyard with different kinds of seed, lest the yield of the seed which you have sown and the fruit of your vineyard be defiled. So you don't want to mix species. You want, oftentimes when, and I think of Monsanto, how they will,
GMO.
play with the seeds so that, you plant the seeds and you get the crop, but those seeds within that fruit will not produce, and that's just flying in the face of our Creator. He put seed in fruit so that the species of fruit would continue to go on, and so there would, we'd avoid starvation. Can you imagine if you brought your crops in and you couldn't use the seeds to plant anymore? That people starve that way. But, they still do it. So keeping the seeds separate. And you see all kinds of hybrids of different fruits and vegetables. And some of them are kind of scary. And then, okay, so it goes about separation. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey together. The donkey will be killed because if the ox gets mad because it's got to drag a donkey, if I were an ox, I would attack the donkey. No, it's, they don't pull the same load.
Right.
And so, you're going to do damage to the animals, you're going to do damage to the plow, and you'll do damage to yourself trying to control these two animals that are complete opposites.
Unequally
Then
yoked.
Say it again?
Unequally yoked.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so important. Yeah. Yeah. We as people shouldn't be unequally yoked either. A believer, I mean, a real believer, not just someone who says they are, married to someone who's not a believer, doesn't last. It doesn't last, and it harms the kids, and it disrupts the home. So we have to be very careful. Okay, and it goes on, do not put a garment of different kinds of wool and linen together. And I know our fabrics that we wear nowadays, the two sisters, Polly and Esther, when they're put together. Well, those unnatural fibers, and when you have mixed fibers together, in the threads of the garment, I'm not saying, there's sometimes is confusion. Well, if I'm wearing a a wool sweater, but I've embroidered a design on it in cotton, why is that sinful? That's not talking about that. It's, or you wearing a wool sweater and cotton or linen pants. That's not what they're talking about. It's about blending the fibers together to make the garment. I forget what the numbers are, but each thing has a frequency, and wool, I think it's 5,000, something like that, has a frequency of 5,000 hertz, and linen does too. And separately, those two things are beneficial to us as humans, especially linen. Wool in the winter, linen in the summer. But when you blend them together, blend those threads together, they cancel each other out and have no benefit to you. I've read articles of people that they only will sleep on linen sheets and linen pillowcases, and it's been found to be very healing and calming. A lot of it used to be that in hospitals in Europe, and I don't know if they still do this, but their sheets would be linen. And that's why they talk about your bed linens. They used to be linen, pure linen, because it was healing. The frequency was very healing to the person, the human that was laying on it. So, this is something that Yah knows about. It's a new concept to people, but he knew what he was doing when he created wool and when he created linen. And he knows what he's doing when he says, don't mix them.
Well, he told the Kohanim
Mhm.
they when they would come minister to him that they had to have linen undergarments
Yep.
because wool or cotton makes you sweat.
Right.
When you sweat, that's indicative of works, your own labor, your own
Mhm.
toil, and it's not to be that way when we come minister to Yah. That
Right.
where linen, they didn't
Mhm.
sweat. I think it's in Ezekiel. It talks about that.
Mm.
The priests weren't allowed to sweat.
Yeah.
So they wore linen, being in an arid desert climate,
Mhm.
kept them cool and they didn't sweat.
Oh, I love linen. Yeah, sweating is also, well, what's happening with your body when you're sweating? Toxins are coming out.
Yeah.
So your skin that was clean because you bathed before you put on your priestly garments, if you sweat, now you're defiling the garments,
Mm-hmm.
and your skin is, not clean, you are unclean before the Lord. So, um, it would make sense that wearing the linen would keep you, um, clean before the Lord. And also, if you're going into, especially going into the Holy of Holies, you're gonna meet the Lord, you're probably sweating already as it is, wondering what you're gonna face. Um, so, yeah, you want to be able to not be uncomfortable as you're doing your duties in the temple or in the tabernacle, um, because you don't wanna be distracted by that discomfort. You want your focus to be on what you are doing when you are ministering to Yahweh. So, okay. You have anything, Keith?
Nothing more.
Okay. All right. Well, Kifa, if you would read from verse 12, um, let's see, take it to the end of 17.
Make tassels on the four corners of the garment with which you cover yourself. When any man takes a wife, and shall go into her, and shall hate her, and shall make abusive charges against her, and bring an evil name on her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I did not find her a maiden. Then the father and mother of the young woman shall take and bring out the proof of the girl's maidenhood to the elders of the city at the gate. And the girl's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as wife, and he hates her. Through what?
Uh,
That's 16.
yeah, that's 16. Okay. Go to the end, 17, end of 17.
And see, he has made abusive charges against her, saying, I did not find your daughter a maiden. Yet these are the proofs of my daughter's maidenhood, and they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city.
Okay. All right. So, Yah's best and our best to Yah is to save ourselves before marriage. We're to present ourselves pure before our spouse so that there's no question, so you're not bringing other spiritual things into the marriage. I've heard it said that every person that you sleep with, you're sleeping with every person that they have slept with. And that gets to be a crowded bed.
Yeah.
So Yah's best is that we, remain pure until he presents us with our spouse and we come together in that purity, in that holiness. It's hard. It's not always, especially this day and age, you don't know what you're bringing into the marriage. And people don't seem to care. People don't seem to care about that. Um, you know, I guess since the 60s, the whole, free love, the, you know, do whatever, feels good. That whole concept of, I'm number one, which we're not. But that was what society was pushing. We think of ourselves. So what if, we do what our flesh wants? Who's that hurting? That's what everybody says. But it does hurt. It does make a mess of things, make a mess of relationships. But here, this is what Yah's best, his intent is to keep, to be pure before you come together in marriage. So here we have a husband who takes a wife and he suspects that she was not pure before they got married, that she had had relations with someone else before they got married. So the father and the mother of the young woman, they're supposed to bring out proof of the girl's maidenhood. And back in the old days, it would be the sheets. And if there was blood on the sheets, this was supposed to be proof that the woman was a virgin before she was married. And oftentimes this would save the young woman's life because otherwise she could be accused of adultery or fornication and be taken out of the city limits and stoned. So this is really important here. It also says that if he made the abusive charges against her and accuses her when she's, she could very well have been a virgin, but after that wedding night, how was she supposed to prove it? You know, he could say anything, but the parents are supposed to have this proof, um, that she was pure before she married the guy. Okay, and they bring the proof. They spread the garment before the elders of the city. How embarrassing. But,
Yep.
that would, if that saves your life, great. Um, but that's what they would do, and it would be the elders of the city that would pass judgment. Yeah, you know, looks like she was a virgin before she was married. So then the husband would have no cause to accuse her. Okay. Yeah, they don't do anything like that anymore, except in, some countries where it's very tribal, you know. Um, in some Arabic countries, you know, they bring up proof if they have it.
Don't
And
the
huh?
don't the ultra orthodox still a lot? Some of them followed this,
Some of them, if yeah, the ultra Orthodox would follow that. And
or not ultra? I mean, just orthodox. Or
yeah, Orthodox not so much, because there's modern Orthodox, they're, you know, um it's still important for the couple to be virgins when they are married, but um and it's harder to prove with a man, but you know with a woman, it's easier to prove, but um especially with modern Orthodox, it's still a shameful thing to not be pure on your wedding day. um but they don't go to the extreme of bringing the proof. The ultra Orthodox, the Haredi, that's what they would do, and I don't even know if they still do it, but that's very old school.
okay,
That was the people that just got off the boat, from the old country.
sure.
So, I'm not in that community, so I don't know. I'll have to ask. Oh, okay, alright, and let's see, whose turn is it? Oh, it's yours, Yochanan.
Okay, let's see.
Okay.
So 17.
Yeah, 17, and take it to the end of 22.
Okay. And see, he has made abusive charges against her, saying, I did not find your daughter a maiden, and yet these are the proofs of my daughter's maidenhood. And they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city. And the elders of that city shall take that man and punish him, and fine him 100 pieces of silver, and give them to the father of the young woman, because he has brought an evil name on a maiden of Israel. And she is to be his wife. He is not allowed to put her away all his days. But if the matter is true, that the girl was not found a maiden, then they shall bring out the girl to the door of the father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done wickedness in Israel, to whore in her father's house. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. When a man is found lying with a woman married to a husband, then both of them shall die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. Thus you purge the evil from Israel.
Okay. So, both instances are, disputes and proofs of, um, of sexual uncleanness, of immorality. Um, and, this thing that, when a man charges a woman of, not being a virgin, when they were married, it's a serious thing. because if it, it's proven that she was a virgin before he, humbled her, he's going to get fined 100 pieces of silver. And then he gives it to the father of the young woman because he has brought an evil name on the maiden of Israel, and she is to be his wife. So he may be trying to get rid of her, but he's not going to be let off that easy. So he has to pay for um, you know spreading this evil lie about her, and then she is still his wife, and he is not allowed to put her away all his days, no matter what. No matter what. And a husband can put away his wife if she is found to be unfaithful or doing things that they're not acceptable. But here it says no, she's you can't put her away. You can't divorce her. Because he's already done damage to her. So whatever she does, hopefully she won't, but whatever she does is, he earned it. Um, okay, so but if the matter is true, the girl was not found a maiden, then they bring out the girl to her father's house. And because she's her father's daughter, um, she carries her father's name, even though she's married to her husband. And by name, I mean reputation. Whatever she does is a reflection on how her father raised her. So, because she brought this evil on her father's house, that's where she will be stoned to death. And it says, because she has done wickedness in Israel, to whore in her father's house. Oftentimes in that society, when a couple get married, oftentimes they live with the father of the bride. Because he, at least for a time to begin with, because he wants to make sure that the husband is providing for her and is treating her well. And what better way than to actually be there as a witness to see how this man treats his daughter. Um, so if she's, you know, um, doing things outside of marriage, it says to whore in her father's house. Basically, she's still under the watchful eye of her father, and it's a reflection on her father what she's done against her husband. See, her husband's been watching not only the father's behavior, but also her behavior within the marriage. And so if she goes outside of the marriage, um, to do that thing, it's a reflection on him. And then it ends with, thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. So, okay, and then 22 and 23. Oh, I'm sorry, and 22. When a man is found lying with a woman married to a husband, the both of them shall die. And we've all heard the saying, it takes two to tango. If there's adultery happening, it's not just happening with the man or just the woman. They're both participating in adultery. Now, if it's rape, it's a different, it's a different thing. There's a different consequence. But in this case, they both receive the corporal punishment. This brings me to when the Pharisees were testing Yeshua, and they brought out the woman caught in adultery, and they were testing him, trying to trap him, and they said, "Well, you know the law of Moses, what it says about a woman caught in adultery and that she should be stoned until dead. And what do you say?" You know. Well, first of all, they brought the woman out. Where's the man? Because it takes two, how can they catch, because you have to have 2 or 3 witnesses to what was going on. So if they saw just the woman, then nothing was going on. But if they saw an actual adultery where you have a man and a woman, why wasn't the man not brought out? Um, unless unless he was one of the accusers and nobody wanted to point the finger.
Mm-hmm.
He could have been one of the priests, you know. Um,
Yeah, they're so corrupt back then.
yeah. And many still are.
Yes.
Nobody nobody's holy. Nobody is without sin. But yeah, it just always, it always bothered me. How come they brought the woman out, but they didn't bring the man out? And it makes me wonder, when Yeshua bent down and was writing in the sand, was he writing the name of the man?
Right.
So some say he was writing the sin, or writing their sins.
Yeah.
But what if he was writing, the name of the man that was involved? That would be pretty embarrassing. So, okay, so both are guilty, both receive corporal punishment. Okay. All right. E's next. I guess it's my turn, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I need a little bit of water. Okay. When a girl who is a maiden is engaged to a husband, and a man finds her in the city and lies with her, then you shall bring them both out to the gate of that city, and shall stone them to death with stones. The girl because she did not cry out in the city, and the man because he has humbled his neighbor's wife. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. But if a man finds the girl who is engaged in the field, and the man seizes her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die. But you shall do no matter to the girl. The girl has no sin worthy of death, for the matter is like a man who rises against his neighbor and kills him. For he found her in the field, and she cried out, the engaged girl, but without anyone to save her. When a man finds a girl who is a maiden who is not engaged, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are found out, then the man who lay with her shall give to the girl's father 50 pieces of silver, and she is to be his wife because he has humbled her. He is not allowed to put her away all his days. A man does not take his father's wife, nor uncover his father's skirt. Okay. All right. So basically, if a man attacks a woman, has his way with her, they're in the city, and she doesn't cry out for help, um, then they're both guilty. Um, in essence, if she doesn't say no, or if she doesn't cry for help, um, she's guilty. And there's different ways of looking at that too. A question I've always heard come up, well, what if he covered her mouth and she couldn't scream? Um, Ladies, there are other ways of getting away. um, but in other words, if she didn't put up a fight, not just crying out, but if she didn't put up a fight, then then it's considered adultery. And so he's guilty because he humbled his neighbor's wife, brought shame to her. And so they are both guilty and they're stoned to death. Okay. And if a man finds a girl who's engaged in the field and the man seizes her and lies with her, then it's only the man that shall die because nobody has heard her. Nobody, they can't prove that she did not cry because she was out in the field. So I guess she gets the benefit of the doubt whether she cries out or not. So,
I have
okay.
a comment.
Yeah,
I have a question,
sure.
or four of them. When it's the phrase is they are brought to the gate.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, we're kind of describing a court, the process of court.
Mm-hmm.
And is the courtroom at the front gate of the city, or is it? I would expect within a building somewhere where you would have a judge, you have the witnesses, and you have the plaintiffs,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a victim. Okay, who would be the judge?
Okay, so this, okay, we have to get our minds out of the modern courtroom, because in a modern courtroom, you have one judge, you have the plaintiff and the victim, and then you've got lawyers. Okay. The gate that they're talking about is where the elders, the judges, it's more than one judge, the judges gather, and they, talk Torah, they talk about the news of the day, they, discuss different things going on in the city. That's where they are. That's, when Mordecai, in the story of Esther, when Mordecai um, received high status for having pretty much saved the king's life when he, you know, told about the assassins that were after the king's life. They had him. They placed him at the gate of the city because that's where the judges were and that's where the elders were. Why were they there? You have people coming in and out. The people coming in, you need some smart cookies. You need some wise men, judges, to decide, do we let them in or do they look shady and we question them or we just don't let them in? They would be wise enough to recognize whether it was safe to bring somebody in, so that the gate of the city is where the judges are, and that's why they would bring the the accused and the accuser there. Make
That's
sense?
It reminds me of the scripture.
Mhm.
I have further comment, but I
Oh,
wanted to
what
wait till
before you do,
other
yeah.
people stop talking.
I wanna hear what Yohanan has to say because he was on
Me
the
too.
tail. Yeah, go ahead, Yohanan.
Reminds me of scripture in Proverbs 31:23
Mhm,
about the virtuous wife. Her
mhm.
husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land.
Yep. He's a smart cookie. Yep, he's one of the elders, he's probably a judge, he's got high ranking. So, okay, Kifa.
I have a subsequent question then.
Okay,
Were the elders and or judge a Cohen?
not necessarily.
Okay. Um,
They may
yeah,
be.
I can't find any, I don't remember any scripture that says when that the court has to be, or the judge. Let me ask another question,
Mhm.
because okay, the question is, oh rats, I forgot the
Well,
question.
okay, while you're thinking about it, you asked whether the judge has to be a Cohen. Okay,
Yes.
these elders, these wise men that are at the gate, and Mordecai's there, he was a Benjaminite.
Hmm.
He wasn't a Cohen. So, you can be a pretty smart cookie and not be a Levite or a Cohen.
All right, but as far as I know, he never sat court on anybody.
Don't Okay, get your mind out of the formal court situation like we know in the Western world.
Okay, let me ask a different question.
Okay.
Who would hear the evidence from the witnesses? Who would say those two people need to be stoned?
It would be the group of elders, the judges.
And
It's like
okay,
when you bring
so
something before the
there is a
Supreme
judge.
Court. It's like when you bring an issue before the Supreme Court. It's not just one judge that hears you. They
Uh,
all deliberate.
sure, I accept that. There can be more than one human being as functioning as a judge.
Yeah.
Accepted. So there is a judge hearing the case,
Mhm,
um, and we know there has to be witnesses,
mhm.
first-hand witnesses, at least two for a major crime anyway.
Yeah.
And then the judge, um, when I say judge, it could be one or more
Mhm.
humans. Um, uh, and who is the victim?
In this case or in any case?
I profess that um, Yahweh is the victim because we are going against His word. He is establishing rules that we are to live our lives, and when we don't abide by these rules, we are offending Him,
Mhm.
and that's the definition of sin.
Right.
And when we offend Him, He is pronouncing um, uh, penalties,
Mhm.
consequences for when we offend Him. So I
Yeah.
just thought I'd ask for comment, see if anybody else feels that way.
Um, yes. Yes, but he's also the judge. And, if he's not the only victim, because in let's say, a murder case, somebody kills another person. Well, we've offended the Most High, but does that mean that he's the only victim? No. And he, I don't think it would be victim. I don't think we ascribe victimhood to him, because victimhood kind of gives you the idea that, like, a victim has no way of protecting themselves, or they weren't able to protect themselves, you know, to
Okay, I accept that. How about the phrase friend of the court?
friend of the
So
court.
that Yahweh and His word is helping the judges
Mhm.
decide.
Well, he's the judge. He's the judge of judges. Dayan ha'emet. He's the true judge. It's like the chief judge, and then they've got all these judges below them, or like
Okay,
a
all right.
yeah. He's the one that sets the standard. He's the one that makes the rules and pays attention to see if the judges are upholding his rules or not.
Okay, thank you.
I knew I should have been a lawyer. Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, let's go on. 23. Okay, and there we go. All right. And I'm having a senior moment. Who read last?
You did.
I did. Okay, that's why I'm having a senior moment. Okay. It's that time of evening. Okay. All right. Craig, you're not going to like it, but I want you to read from 1 to the end of 6.
Okay. No one wounded, crushed, or whose member is cut off does enter the assembly of Yahweh. No one of illegitimate birth does enter the assembly of Yahweh. Even a 10th generation of his does not enter the assembly of Yahweh. An Ammonite or a Moabite does not enter the assembly of Yahweh. Even a 10th generation of them does not ever enter the assembly of Yahweh, because they did not meet you with bread and water on the way when you came out of Mitzrayim, and because they hired against you Bilam, son of Beor, from Pethor of Amram, Nahar Ayim, Nahar Ayim, Nahar Ayim, to curse you. It wasn't that hard, I don't think. But Yahweh your Elohim refused to listen to Bilam, and Yahweh your Elohim turned the curse into a blessing for you, because Yahweh your Elohim loves you. Do not seek their peace nor their good all the days of all your days forever.
Okay. So, now we're talking about entering the assembly of Yahweh. Okay, so, yeah, so this, I've always understood this to mean the assembly of priests, not like a general assembly of, the righteous. So, being, I want to put this delicately, um, a man who is marred and scarred, wounded, in that way, cannot be part of the priesthood, the assembly. Does anybody have a different version?
I got the New King James. It
Okay,
said,
what does it say?
"He who is emasculated by crushing or mutilation shall not enter the assembly of the Lord." So
Okay.
a eunuch, um,
Okay, yeah.
one who's been castrated,
Mhm. Wounded in war.
that too,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Which
Um,
doesn't seem fair because it wasn't their choosing. You know what I
right,
mean?
right. Yeah.
But I mean, Yah says it. I gotta go with it. So,
Yeah. Well, he wants purity.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
so
too. I mean, if they were, like you said, the priests, uh,
mhm,
they would want successors.
true.
And if, I mean, if you're emasculated, you can't have children. You
Right,
can't
right.
pass on the priesthood.
Yeah. Do you have a different version, Keitha?
No, I'm reading what you've got on the screen.
Okay. Okay. So it looks like this is about maintaining purity in the camp. Um, um, hmm. And that's verse 1. Um, hmm. Okay, I'm looking at a commentary here. Oftentimes, this kind of um, uh, damage is done, in pagan societies. Um, and so I'm just wondering if this was to keep those that were doing these practices from being part of the people of Yah. There are some, there are some societies, well, okay, eunuchs, for instance, I'm thinking back to the Book of Esther, and they had eunuchs that would, keep tabs on the harems, and, they'd be there, and, you know, they're they're damaged early on in their lives, so they don't, function or have the same, um, desires of a man who, is intact. So that's why they're put there. But, that was a pagan society that she was in. I don't recall reading anything about, any of the Israelites where Yah said, "Okay, I want you to have this one group of men that you're going to make eunuchs out of them, for whatever purpose." And Yochanan was saying that, they want descendants, especially the priests need descendants to pass on sort of the family business. Um, I know that, yeah, there's some even now there are some societies that they're pagan, they worship pagan gods, and part of their sacrifice is to mutilate themselves like that. So this could be another way of Yah keeping, separation, keeping, you know, that element away. Um, Illegitimate birth. Well, it's certainly not the baby's fault, but I'm wondering if these rules here, these first two would be a way of telling people, "Don't engage in any of this activity, or you will be cast out. You will not be allowed to be part of the community."
Right. As a warning.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we have a just God. He's full of love and mercy, and I imagine if, something happened that was not the fault of the person, but that's up to him. He makes the rules, and so it's up to him to, he says in his word, I am merciful to those who I want to give mercy. And so that's up to him. Okay, and then the Ammonite or Moabite, they were idolaters as well, so he wouldn't want to have idolaters brought into the camp. I think of Ruth and how much, how many came against her because she was a Moabitess, and they didn't, want her bringing her gods or her, people's practices into the family. I think even today people are very, careful what they bring into their families. But I see this as separation. And it goes on to, because they did not meet you with bread and water. So they didn't show the Israelites kindness. So Yah being a just God, they're receiving their punishment. And talks about Bilam. Okay. And turn the curse into a blessing. Okay. Yeah, Bilam, when he changed his mind, didn't curse the people of Israel. Okay. 7. Okay, Yohanan, if you would start at 7, and go, let's see, take it all the way to the end of, let me see where we are. Take it to the end of 14.
Okay.
7 to the end of 14.
Do not loathe the Edomite, for he is your brother, and do not loathe the Mitzrite, because you were a stranger in his land. The children of the third generation born to them do enter the assembly of Yahweh. When the army goes out against your enemies, then you shall guard yourselves from every evil matter. When there is any man among you who is not clean because of an emission in the night, then he shall go outside the camp. Let him not come into the midst of the camp. And it shall be when evening comes that he bathes with water, and when the sun sets, let him come into the midst of the camp. And you shall have a place outside the camp where you shall go out. And you shall have a sharp implement among your equipment, and when you sit down outside, you shall dig it with it, and turn and cover your excrement. For Yahweh your Elohim walks in the midst of your camp to deliver you, and to give your enemies over to you. Therefore your camp shall be set apart, so that he does not see unclean matter among you, and shall turn away from you.
Okay. So again, separation of, separating clean from unclean. Okay. Yeah, usually usually I guess the porta potties were outside the camp.
Yes.
Okay, which is always a good idea. Okay, anything on that? Huh?
You wouldn't want that in the camp with you, especially around any kind of water source.
Right.
That's
Right.
where E. coli and, Listeria and all that come from.
Yeah. Yeah. E. coli.
Yep.
Yeah. But, a lot of people would look at that and say, why is that in the Bible? Well, these are for our own good because so many times humans are ignorant of these things, and so they need to be told.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Safe.
All right, going on 15. You do not hand over to his master the slave who has escaped from his master to you. Let him dwell with you in your midst, in the place which he chooses within one of your gates, where it is pleasing to him. Do not oppress him. None of the daughters of Israel is to be a cult prostitute, nor any of the sons of Israel be a cult prostitute. Do not bring the gift of a whore or the pay of a dog to the house of Yahweh your Elohim for any vowed offering, for both of these are an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim. Do not lend at interest to your brother, interest of silver, interest of food, or interest of whatever is lent at interest. To a foreigner you lend at interest, but to your brother you do not lend at interest, so that Yahweh your Elohim might bless you in all that you put your hand to in the land which you are entering to possess. Okay, so break it down. Okay, and I wish that during the slave days in this country, they would have cracked open the Bible because 15 and 16, they've broken those rules so many times. Escaped slaves, they escape because they are being harshly treated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not to hand that slave back over to their master, because they would receive even harsher punishment for having escaped. And it says, let him dwell with you in your midst, in the place which he chooses within one of your gates, where it is pleasing to him. Do not oppress him. So treat him better than how he was treated when he was enslaved. So many times in the South, the old South during that time, people would turn slaves in because of the money. There would be a reward. And clearly it says in Yah's word, you don't do that. If there's a reason that slave escaped. Okay. And then none of the daughters of Israel is to be a cult prostitute, or any of the sons either. This is something that ancient pagan societies used to do, and I dare say it's probably still going on in some pagan cultures, but we're not to imitate the idolaters, the pagans. We are supposed to be separate, separate from them. So this is important to Yahweh. And the gifts that we bring Yahweh, bringing offering, it shouldn't come from a woman of ill repute or a man of ill repute. Let's see, or the pay of a dog to the house of Yahweh. When they say the pay of a dog, what does it say in your version, Craig? Or who was reading from? Oh, it was Yochanan. You were reading from the New King James?
Yes, it says, you should not bring the wages of a harlot or the price of a dog to the house of your Lord your God for any vowed offering.
Okay.
They're an abomination.
Okay. When they say the pay of a dog, they're referring to a male prostitute.
Okay.
Okay, and that's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
And then it goes on, do not lend at interest to your brother. In other words, to a member of your community. If somebody were to, and I've had this happen, a member of the congregation needed a loan from me. And so I had the money, I was able to bless them, and they returned the money. But I didn't ask for interest because it says here, a member of your community, you can lend, but do not charge them interest. Now, if it's a foreigner, someone who's not in the community, a non-believer, then you can lend at interest, but not to a brother or a sister.
So
Okay.
I got a different version. It's the NLT.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It
Mhm.
says in verse 18, it says, when you are bringing an offering to fulfill a vow, you must not bring to the house of the Lord your God any offering from the earnings of a prostitute, whether a man or a woman. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So they
Yeah.
call them dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay.
Okay.
No dogs. Okay. All right. Craig, Kifa, if you would read 21 to the end.
When you make a vow to Yahweh your Elohim, do not delay to pay it, for Yahweh your Elohim is certainly requiring it of you, and it shall be sin in you. But when you abstain from vowing, it is not sin in you. That which has gone from your lips, you shall guard and do, for you voluntarily vowed to Yahweh your Elohim what you have promised with your mouth. When you come into your neighbor's vineyard, You shall eat to the satisfaction of your desire, but do not put any receptacle of yours
Any in a receptacle.
in a receptacle. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
When you come into your neighbor's standing grain, you shall pluck the heads with your hand, but do not use a sickle on your neighbor's standing grain.
Mhm. Yep, that's only fair. Um,
Be greedy.
it, yeah, yeah, that's basically what that whole section is referring to. You know, if you make a vow or you, let's see, 21, what do you have on 21? Yoki?
Let's see. Hold on. 21 says, "When you make a vow to the Lord your God, you shall not delay to pay it, for the Lord your God will surely require it of you, and it would be a sin to you." You want verse 21, right?
Yes.
Okay, that was verse
Okay.
20.
All right. I'm just looking for a different version. Um, I'm wondering the vow, um, it seems like this is having to do with, okay, you're promising to present something to Yahweh.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Yahweh, if you do this for me, I will do this for you, or, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
um,
Bribing the Lord.
yeah, yeah, and don't hold anything for ransom. Um, yeah. So basically, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and 22, basically, just abstain from vowing. If you abstain from vowing, then it's not a sin in you. Um, so
You don't.
don't make any promises you don't intend to keep.
Mhm.
Okay, and it says, what you've promised with your mouth. Okay, so just the fact that it's your word, and your word's supposed to be binding. So if it escapes your lips, you need to abide by it. And then the vineyard and the grain field. Um, yeah, you can do a little quality control as you're passing through, but you don't want to um, start, gathering a bunch of their crops and walk away with it. Um, and with the standing grain, you could pluck a few heads with your hand, but don't cut it down because well, you're damaging their
Mhm.
crops as well. So, okay, looking for. All right. So let's go on to 24. And all right, Yochanan, take 1 through the end of 6.
Okay. Put my marker there. When a
Mhm.
man takes a wife and shall marry her, then it shall be. If she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found a matter of uncoveredness in her, and he shall write her a certificate of divorce, and put it in her hand, and send her out of his house. And if she left his house and went and became another man's wife, and the latter husband shall hate her, and write her a certificate of divorce, and put it in her hand, and send her out of his house, or when the latter husband dies, who took her to be his wife, then her former husband who sent her away is not allowed to take her back to be his wife after she has been defiled. For that would be an abomination before Yahweh. And do
Mm,
not bring sin on the land in which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance. When a man has taken a new wife, let him not go out into the army, nor let any matter be imposed upon him. He shall be exempt for 1 year for the sake of his home, to rejoice with his wife whom he has taken. No one takes in pledge the lower or the upper millstone, for he would be taking a life in pledge.
mm. Okay. All right, we got a few things here, basically, having to do with marriage. Um, and here again, if she finds no favor in his eyes, he in some version, instead of saying found a matter of uncoveredness in her, other versions it's uncleanness. This is referring to her standing, her condition, as far as is she keeping herself only to him?
Mhm.
If she's stepping out on him and, he discovers this, then he has the right to divorce her. And that really is the only way, that's the only matter, um, that is used, in the case of divorce. If she burned the muffins, if she burned your dinner, you can't divorce her. But
Right.
this is, it's not for frivolous things. Yah does not like divorce. He hates it, and he wants to, you know, keep things pure.
Causes
Um, Say it again.
the divorce causes a lot of damage to the family, the spouse, the
Mhm,
children.
mhm.
There's
Yeah,
no clean divorce.
right, right. Um, so But, here he can't trust her. And the
Right.
same thing, is if the shoe was on the other foot. Um, that's the only reason that Yah will allow divorce. I mean, he allows it, but he's not happy with it.
Right.
Um, okay, and let's see, and if she left his house and went and become another man's wife, and the latter husband hates her and writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand, sends her out of his house, or when the second husband dies, who took her to be his wife, then the former husband who sent her away is not allowed to take her back to be his wife after she had been defiled. So, yeah, once she's out of the relationship with her first husband, and finds another husband, she can't come back to the first husband again. It brings shame on both. Okay. Um, let's see, and he calls it an abomination. And, let's see, and do not bring sin on the land which Yahweh your Elohim has given you as an inheritance. So, yeah, no sin that way. And then when a man has taken a new wife, let him not go out into the army, nor let any matter be imposed upon him. So Yah wants, um, a married couple, especially right when they're first married, to be together, to get to know each other, to, begin filling their house with children. Um, and so he doesn't want the husband to be taken away to fight a war somewhere and not come back and leave her, you know, without any help, um, a widow, and leave any orphans. Um, he wants the marriage to have a good beginning. So, so I guess I'll have to tell David, if you're gonna get married, you have to you can't go off. Make a choice, your
Mhm.
tank or your wife.
What if she's
Uh,
married too?
yeah, right. Okay, and then it goes on and it talks about no one takes in pledge the lower or the upper millstone, for he would be taking a life in pledge.
Hmm.
Hmm, interesting.
Yep. It's your livelihood.
It's your livelihood. Now, it comes right after the man goes to the army.
Yeah.
Those millstones, they fit together.
Yeah.
That's a married couple right there.
Yeah.
And if you what's the word? If you take away one of those stones and put it in another, in another place to do another job, not the job that it has to begin with, which is to be a partner in, it's what it's used for, a partner in marriage or millstones. If you take one or the other away, it's useless.
Yes. They have to be a match pair.
Right. Let's see. Let's see, who's got another version of verse 6?
Gotta be in the right chapter. No man shall take the lower or upper millstone in pledge, for he takes one's living in pledge.
Hmm.
The other version is 24:6. It is wrong to take a set of millstones, or even just the upper millstone, as a security for a loan, for the owner uses it to make a living.
Hmm. So why is it that stuck right there?
Yeah, it's
I think it's a colloquialism.
yeah.
You
I think they
know,
yeah. Mhm.
I don't know. That's what I think. I'm thinking like a Jew.
Plus, it's like, oh wait, I forgot one, and just whipped it in there.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness. Okay, and so that ends that part.
Mhm.
All right, going on. Um, let's see. Is it my turn already?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Can't tell the players without a scorecard. All right. Oh my goodness. Okay. When a man is found kidnapping any of his brothers of the children of Israel and treats him harshly or sells him, then that kidnapper shall die. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. Take heed in an outbreak of leprosy to diligently guard and do according to all that the priests, the Levites, teach you, as I have commanded them, so you shall guard to do. Remember what Yahweh your Elohim did to Miriam on the way when she came out of Mitzrayim. When you lend your brother a loan, do not go into his house to get his pledge. Stand outside and let the man to whom you lend bring the pledge out to you. And if the man is poor, do not sleep with his pledge. Okay. By all means, return the pledge to him at sundown, and he shall sleep in his own garment, and shall bless you, and it shall be righteousness to you before Yahweh your Elohim. Okay. Wow. Okay. So we've got a man found kidnapping any of his brothers of the children of Israel. Okay. So anyone within his community, and he treats him harshly or sells him, then that kidnapper shall die. Somebody needs to tell that to Joseph's brothers. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, don't do that. And then it goes on, take heed in an outbreak of leprosy to diligently guard and do according to all the priests the Levites teach you. So it's, they were taught how to recognize leprosy and what to do if there's a leprosy outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't, get infected, or your home doesn't get infected. Then it goes, remember what Yahweh your Elohim did to Miriam on the way when you came out of Mitzrayim. And remember Miriam, she complained about Moshe's wife.
Yes.
And, you know, I guess she didn't like the fact that she was a little darker than the others. And so when she contracted leprosy, her, part of her turned white. I
Yeah.
always thought, I can just see Yahweh saying, "Oh yeah, you're so white. Here, now you're whiter.
Yeah.
See how you like it."
Chuckling. Yep.
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah. So, yeah. So, okay. I'm trying to relate those. That's what we call it Midrash. We're okay. I guess to this, when it's talking about outbreak of leprosy, we're supposed to judge and judge fairly. When you see somebody who's, got this leprosy, just as the priests, the Levites, had taught the people, they were to judge with wisdom
Mm-hmm.
and fairness. Just because you didn't like somebody, you can't say, oh, well, they need to go out of the community. This can't be an excuse to get rid of them.
Right.
So it's wisely and fairly, but then it goes and says, remember what Yahweh your Elohim did to Miriam, so we're supposed to be wise and be fair in our judgment.
Yes.
Okay. And then it goes on, when you lend your brother a loan, don't go with him to get his collateral. You know, he's supposed to choose what he's going to put as a pledge to make sure that he pays that loan back. And this is a matter of respect too. You don't follow him into his tent or into his house and, okay, let's see what you're going to put up as collateral, as insurance that I'll get my loan back. You give him a little dignity. Just the fact that he came to you for that loan, that's a humbling thing.
Right.
This person that came to me for a loan, I'm sure it wasn't easy for them, to do, to eat humble pie. So we're to be fair.
The other thing about verse 10 that kind of stood out to me, I don't know if
Uh-huh.
it matter or not, but whenever you go into somebody's house,
Mm-hmm.
you cross the threshold, you come into covenant with whatever or whomever they're serving. Would that have anything to do with that?
Yeah, could be.
So if he's, I don't know if maybe this is a stretch, but if he is,
Mhm.
let's say he's in poverty because of, I mean, if he's serving other gods
Mm,
and he is um, paying the penalty for that. If you come
mhm.
into that house, you would come um, you would come into covenant with whatever he's dealing with. Would that
Right.
be
Hmm.
too far of a stretch to say that?
I guess it would be I guess it would depend. I mean, that could be. It doesn't go into that much detail there. I mean, it could be a case. Um,
Just something to think about whenever you go to
yeah.
some.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, some houses I would not cross the threshold.
Right.
I mean, I've been in situations where, and it wasn't somebody's house, it was um a uh a shop, a little shop. And as I was getting ready to cross the threshold, I felt this spiritual heaviness. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, ooh, right away I started praying because please, no, but nothing jump on me, okay? But yeah, turns out the owners of the shop were a couple of witches.
Oh,
So oh,
yikes.
yeah, and it wasn't plain, I didn't see it until I got to the back of the shop. Everything in the front looked fine,
Oh,
but
sure.
there was a spiritual heaviness. I got to the back of the shop, and all of a sudden, all the candles and soaps and bath products in the front of the shop had nothing to do with all the Ouija boards and the
Oh,
and crystals and stuff in the back of the shop. Yeah. Yeah, it was like stepping from light into darkness, and so, yeah, got out of there. I have to tell you that whole story. It was pretty amazing. But yeah, when you cross a threshold, you're supposed to be very careful. And you never enter somebody's house without permission.
definitely.
Um, even if they greet you at the door and they go back into the house, let them go back in the house. Don't don't assume that you can follow them back in there. So,
I have a comment.
never step on the threshold. That's a
Right.
no-no. Okay, keep.
Yeah, I was thinking that for verse 10, further, Yeshua might have thought there further clarification there would be
Mhm.
Matthew 18. Because there's different situations on what that loan actually represents, and the different situations of collecting who said what during the processing of that loan. So Matthew 18 brings in the different levels of authority that you go back to for a decision on what to do next. I submit that for commentary.
Okay.
I stumped him.
No, I mean, I'm just,
Yeah.
it's kind of a stretch.
Anyway, that was one thing that occurred to me
Yeah.
while I was listening to number 10.
Yeah. When you lend your brother a loan, do not go into his house to get his pledge. Okay. I'm trying to find where the decision making you're talking about is.
Well, who decides whether are you? I go to someone's house to collect a loan. Okay, who am I supposed to be? The person that decides to go into his house?
Oh no, this is not talking about collecting a loan. That line is, he's going to bring something as like collateral, something that he can back the loan up should he not be able to pay the loan back. So the loan's not being collected at that point. This is just establishing the loan.
Okay, my misinterpretation. When I've always viewed that if Alicia gives me $100, she's
Won't happen.
giving me a loan. She's giving me a loan, and I pledge to repay that loan in a certain manner.
Right. And I ask for
So
your
the
pledge.
pledge is the repayment.
The pledge is your collateral.
Okay.
That's what the pledge is. Yeah. Did I stump you?
Well, I submitted my comment to the field for commentary, and you gave me the commentary.
Okay.
It was a successful reply.
Okay. And not $100. It'll be $50 tops. Because I know you'll buy more computer stuff. Okay. All right. Where are we? Okay. And okay. So stand outside, let the man to whom you lend bring the pledge out to you. And if the man is poor, do not sleep with his pledge. Okay, so basically, if he's poor, you're not going to take this item away from him. It's just understood that that's what he's got in order to pay back the loan.
Right. It's mercy.
Yeah, it is. Mercy and kindness. Okay. Who's next?
Is it me already?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Oh,
Be 18?
okay. We already read 13,
Or
actually.
13.
Yeah. So it's we're at 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
number
Because
18. I can't see.
okay, there you are. Okay. So 14. Yeah, to the end of 18.
Okay. Do not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, of your brothers or of the strangers who is in your land within your gates. Give him his wages on the same day, and do not let the sun go down on it, for he is poor and lifts up his being to it, so that he does not cry out against you to Yahweh, and it shall be a sin in you. Fathers are not put to death for their children. Fathers are not put to death for their children, and children are not put to death for their fathers. Each is to die for his own sin. Do not twist the right ruling of a stranger or the fatherless, nor the garment of a widow, nor take the garment of a widow. But you shall remember that you were a slave in Mitzrayim, and Yahweh your Elohim redeemed you from there. Therefore I command you to do this word.
Okay. And again, it's kindness and
Yes.
mercy and compassion. Yeah. Okay.
Or the way Yah's treated us.
Right. Right. Now here in 16, it says, fathers are not put to death for the children, and children are not put to death for their fathers. Each is to die for his own sin. In other words, we're responsible for what we do. And the blame is not put on, the punishment is not put on, the other person. I know that verse is oftentimes used when people are arguing that, on the messiahship of Yeshua. And, it's like, it's a stretch. It really is a stretch. They say, well, how can Yeshua die for our sins? Because right here, it says that the child, the son, cannot die for the father. In other words, die for another person's sin. But it's really a stretch. Here, the father and the son are tied together, and this it's yes, it's like a person can't die for another person's sin, for their fault and everything. But, when Yeshua gave his life, here it says, fathers are not put to death. In other words, against their will. And Yeshua gave his life. He says, no one takes my life. I give it freely. So, this has nothing to do with what Yeshua did for us. Just thought I'd put that out there. Okay, so that was 18. Okay. Do not twist the right ruling of a stranger or the fatherless, nor take the garment of a widow. Again, this is compassion, kindness, mercy. And then it says, but you shall remember that you were a slave in Mitzrayim, and that Yahweh your Elohim redeemed you from there. Therefore, I am commanding you to do his word. So we were once in a desperate situation, like the poor man, the hired servant who was poor, like a widow, the fatherless. a stranger. We're to show mercy because we were shown mercy. Okay. And
Another thing about verse 16,
uh-huh.
speaking of the fathers and the children being sinful,
Mhm. Right?
Yahweh and Yeshua were not sinful.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's us.
Mm-hmm.
We, you know, we're the person that caused, you know, others to be harmed.
Right.
It's our sin. Okay. Kifa, 19 to the end of the chapter.
When you reap your harvest in your field and have forgotten the sheaf in the field, do not go back to get it. Let it be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, so that Yahweh your Elohim might bless you in all the works of your hands. When you beat your olive trees, do not examine the branch behind you. Let it be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, do not glean behind you. Let it be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim before I am commanding you to do this word.
Okay, therefore. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's again mercy, compassion. Um, not hoarding everything for ourselves, but and always also looking ahead. Just keep going. Don't look behind. No woulda, shoulda, couldas. What's the past is past, and what you leave behind, if it benefits another person, just leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And
Chances are.
mhm,
Well, I was going to say, when you hoarding stuff and not leaving it for other people, um,
mhm.
when you do that to food, chances are it goes bad on you,
Right.
spoils any.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Chapter 25. This is the last chapter that we will be reading. I'm just gonna okay. All right. Kifa, or I'm sorry, Yohanan, if you would begin at 1 and um read to the end of 6.
okay. When there is a dispute between men, then they shall come up unto judgment, and they shall be judged, and the righteous declared righteous, and the wrongdoer declared wrong. And it shall be, if the wrongdoer is to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and be beaten in the presence of the number present. Excuse me. Start over. And it shall be, if the wrongdoer is to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and be beaten in his presence with a number of blows according to his wrong. 40 blows he gives him, but no more, lest he beat him with any more blows than these, and your brother is degraded before your eyes. Do not muzzle an ox while it is threshing. When brothers dwell together, and one of them has died and has no son, the widow of the dead man shall not become strangers outside. Her husband's brother does go into her, and shall take her as his wife, and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her. And it shall be that the firstborn son which she bears does rise up for the name of his dead brother, so that his name is not blotted out from Israel.
Okay. All right. Fairness. This is fairness. Okay, there's a dispute. They'll be judged. The righteous is declared righteous, the wrongdoer is declared wrong. And so here's the punishment. The wrongdoer is to be beaten. If the wrongdoer is to be beaten, then the judge would have him lie down and be beaten in his presence. There's so many instances, especially, I've seen in movies where somebody is judged guilty and they get taken away to, put behind bars, and they're going to receive their punishment. Usually it's, to remain there for a length of time. But while they're behind bars and not in the sight of the judge, the guards decide to beat him. Maybe even beat him to death. It's up to the judge to be present to see the sentence carried out. Nobody does that anymore, at least not in this country. Otherwise, Jeffrey Epstein would probably still be alive. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, and so many deaths in prison, they say, oh, it was suicide. There's a lot of people that are dying out there that it's declared suicide when we know it's other actors. But this is saying this is fairness. The judge has got to be there. The sentence has to be executed right there. And with a number of blows according to the wrong. So, stealing doesn't warrant the same amount of blows as accidentally causing the death of somebody. And it's not the same as forgetting to pay back a loan. I mean, there's different, the punishment must equal the infraction. Okay. Then, okay, it says 40 blows he gives him, but no more. I don't know. Somewhere I read that they stop at 40 because beyond 40, the person could die.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's just a beating, it shouldn't be. And so I've heard that this is why when Yeshua was beaten, they only gave him 39 blows.
Yes. Same thing.
Because 40, he could have died, and the powers that be wanted to complete his sentence. They wanted him alive to suffer crucifixion. If he was dead because of the beating, they would have no person to be crucified as an example to others that would, displease the Pharisees, the priests. So they stopped at 39 there. Okay, so 40 blows. And see, no more than these, and your brother be degraded before your eyes. So basically, your brother would be beat to a pulp. And then verse 4, do not muzzle an ox while it is threshing. That just kind of popped in there, didn't it?
Yeah, I thought the same thing too. It's another one.
Yeah, I was like, okay. This is another colloquialism, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Just, why would you muzzle an ox? It generally would be to keep it from eating as it is threshing the grain.
Right.
It's mercy. You've got an ox, working, and you don't allow it to eat if it's hungry. And so it's like if you did the same thing to a person, you don't add insult to injury. They're already being punished. They're already working. They're already
Mm-hmm.
going through the ringer, they need to be taken care of. They need to be kept alive.
Verse 4, a worker is worth his keep.
Yeah. 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 Okay. All right. Then, see, we went to 6, right? When brothers dwell together, one of them has died, has no son. Okay, so this is the levirate marriage. So the widow of the dead man shall not become a stranger's outside. So it's up to her husband's brother to give her a son, give her children, so as to carry on the name of her dead husband. And it's also a kindness, I mean, if she has no children, children are our insurance that we will be taken care of in our old age. Maybe not so much nowadays, but that's what it used to be. Generally, grandma and grandpa would come and live with the grandchildren, so that they would be taken care of, or at least with their children. And so this was to make sure that that widow had children to take care of her in her old age. And okay, and it shall be that the firstborn son which she bears does rise up for the name of his dead brother. Okay, so that his name is not blotted out of Israel. So yeah, this is mercy again. Okay, and I think of the story of Ruth in this. Okay, all right.
Tamar was another one.
Say again.
Tamar.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. She almost was received the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
So she took a chance there, but you know, she wanted a child to, you know, carry on her husband's name, a child to take care of her in her old age. All right. Okay. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Okay, I guess it's my turn. Is it or Kiva's?
Yours.
Mine.
Or did
Okay.
no? Didn't you?
Huh?
Uh, no. Let's see. I don't remember. I read
Oh,
at the 6. I read to the end of 6.
okay. You read to the end of 6. Okay, so it's my turn.
Okay.
Okay. 7. Whew, it's getting to be a long night.
Sure.
All right. But if the man does not desire to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate to the elders, the judges, okay, and say, my husband's brother refuses to raise up a name to his brother in Israel. He does not agree to perform the duty of my husband's brother. The elders of his city shall then call him and speak to him, and he shall stand and say, I have no desire to take her. Then his brother's wife shall come to him in the presence of the elders and remove his sandal from his foot. And
Ankla.
the chancla, apply the chancla. And remove the sandal from his foot and then spit in his face. Yeah. And answer and say, thus it is done to the man who does not build up his brother's house. Hui. Like a llama.
Oh,
And in Israel his name shall be called the house of him who had his sandal removed.
wow.
Yeah, I know.
Uh,
Yeah. I guess there are worse things to, worse things to call somebody. Okay, so that's speaking of levirate marriage.
Mhm.
And we see that example in, Tamar and also in Ruth. Okay, Kifa, start at 10. Oh, I'm sorry, start at 11. And go to the end of 16. Oh, take it all the way to the end. What the heck? Okay.
When men fight with one another, and the wife of one shall draw near to rescue her husband from the hand of the one attacking him, and shall put out her hand and seize him by the you know whats,
Bye.
then you shall cut off her hand. Your eye does not pardon. You do not have in your bag differing weights, a heavy and a light. You shall not have in your house differing measures, a large and a small. You shall have a perfect and right weight, a perfect and right measure, so that they prolong your days on the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. For all who do these and all who do unrighteously are an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you were coming out of Mitzrayim, how he met you on the way and attacked your back, all the feeble ones in your rear, when you were tired and weary, and he did not fear Elohim. Therefore, it shall be when Yahweh your Elohim has given you rest from your enemies all around in the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you to possess as an inheritance, that you blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. Do not forget.
Okay. And of course, Amalek, the Amalekim, um, were the ones that were the ancestors of Haman. Boo, tweet, tweet, tweet. Um, yeah.
Right.
Okay. So we start, it looks like this is fairness. Um, so yeah, this first thing, yikes. Yeah, why is the wife getting in there without a frying pan? I mean,
Right.
yeah. Well, she's not supposed to touch another man. And so she's getting, these two men are fighting, and what's she doing getting in between them?
Right. Yeah.
You know, um, okay. So it's fairness. It's you know, doing the right thing, not the wrong thing. Okay. And then you do not have in your bag different weights, a heavy and a light. So it's again fairness.
Mhm.
Weights, measures, they should be fair weights and measures. Otherwise, that's cheating. That's
Unjust
you
scale.
know. Yeah, yeah. I think of the um oh, who's the artist? And
Rockwell.
Rockwell, yeah, the Rockwell painting where this woman's at the butcher shop, and there's a chicken on the scale, and she's got her finger underneath the platter where the chicken is, and she's pushing up to make it seem lighter so she doesn't have to pay as much. But he's got his thumb on the scale and he's pulling down to make it seem like it's heavier. So, yeah. In other words, keep your hands out of the business, okay? Keep your hands out of things. Um, be even-handed, be fair in the way um, you deal with people in any situation. Um, and again, Yas calls all that an abomination. and cheating. Don't cheat. Um, and then it speaks of Amalek, where he attacked. He attacked us from the rear. Um, not good. Not good. Okay. Any comment? That's the end of the reading.
Not I.
Not I. Okay. Not I, said the little brown hen. Okay. Well, thank Yah for his word. I'm gonna switch over here and remove that. Okay. Well, real quick, I've got some announcements. Okay. We meet every Shabbat, every Saturday. Normally we meet at 1 p.m. Central Time at 521 South State Street, number 7, good number, in Belvedere. And we would love to have you come and fellowship and worship with us if you're in town. And if you're not able to be there in person, please check us out on our YouTube channel. And we broadcast our services there. However, this week, this weekend, we are not having our normal Shabbat schedule. We'll go back to our regular schedule the following week. But this Shabbat, we're actually having 3 services. And because this is Yom Kippur coming up. And again, as I explained in the very beginning, we do not go by the rabbinical, or otherwise known as the Jewish calendar, because they're not going by what the Lord has told us we go by to reckon where the months start and where they end. So this year, some years the rabbinical calendar and Yahweh's calendar coincide, but this year they're a month apart. So it may seem like, according to Yahweh's calendar, or the Jewish calendar, that we're a month ahead. We are not. We are going with Yahweh's calendar, which is based on the new moon, where it is in relationship to the Aviv barley. And there's a whole thing. Go back to Leviticus 23 if you want to know about the details, or come to any one of our services and we'll explain that to you. But in any case, this Friday evening is Erev Yom Kippur. It is the actual Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, according to Yah's word. And so that's on Friday evening, tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. And there will not be an oneg. There won't be any. We may have some fellowship, but there will not be any food. We normally bring the food out. People come for the Lord and they stay for the food and the fellowship. But because this is a fast, we don't want to bring temptation out, and so we're not having an oneg after service tomorrow night. It's a short service too. It's only about an hour. And so then the very next morning, which is Shabbat, Saturday, normally we have Shabbat service at 1 p.m. This Saturday, it's going to be at 11 p.m. It's going to be a morning service. So you'll have some time to sleep in and rest because it's a Shabbat. But again, we'll have a short service in the morning, and then you've got all afternoon to rest, to spend time with Yahweh, to spend time with your family. And we may keep this place open if anyone wants to just, study, pray, get prayer, whatever. We'll see what everyone wants to do. But that service on Saturday morning is at 11, and we're still fasting. So again, there's no oneg, there's no fellowship lunch. Then Saturday night at 6:30 p.m., we have the Nila service, which is the breaking of the fast. And we're going to break the fast together with the first taste in our mouths being that of Messiah's table. We're going to be sharing what some call communion. And that's going to be how we break the fast. And then after that, we will gather in the Oneg room and share some food. Please do not bring pizza. Please do not bring anything heavy. We ask people to bring something to share. So we're looking at salads, a light soup, no chili. Chili's too heavy. We don't want to shock anybody's systems as they're coming off of the fast. Yeah, salads, fruits, keep it light. Keep it light. And so that's pretty much it for this this coming weekend, the 3 services that we have on our Facebook page. Oh no, not on the Facebook page, on our website, neveshalom.oasis.org. If you go to the blog, if you look at the tabs up top and you'll see where it says more, and hover over that, and there will be a list come down. And at the bottom, it's our blog. And in the blog is it talks about why we fast, and why fasting is associated with Yom Kippur. So it's a fairly long blog, but I'm hoping it'll give you lots of information that you can use. And also, if you go to I'm going to post it on our website, but on our Facebook page at the top, you can download fasting tips, what to do to prepare yourself for the fast. You don't want to, for instance, eat anything that's salty or spicy, because it'll mess you up as far as being able to keep the fast. And this is a full fast. We are not only fasting from food, but we're fasting from any kind of drink as well. So before you enter the fast, hydrate yourself. Anyway, all those tips are going to be on our Facebook page, and I'm going to be posting them probably in the blog as well on our website. So I hope to see you at one or all of those services. And I want to wish everybody an easy fast. Really quick, we've got our bookstore, and we have all kinds of things, as you can see: Bibles, books, CDs, candles, jewelry, and Holy Land imports. We support believers in the land who are artisans, and sometimes their only way of income is creating things. And so we try to purchase from them and have those items in our bookstore for you, so you can participate in supporting Israel. Okay, so I want to thank Kifa and Yochanan for joining me here tonight, the 3 amigos. And I also want to put out there, if anyone wants to participate, please message me and I'll send you a link so that you can participate and be one of the readers also. And for those who would rather stay behind the scenes, you can also engage in our chat, our live chat, and ask questions, bring forth scripture, or make comments. Okay. Well, thank you, Kifa. Thank you, Yochanan, for joining me. And I want to thank the watchers, thank the people that are online watching us. And I hope you were blessed by everything that was said and done here. I know it got kind of long. And so with that, I'm going to wish you all an Erev Tov, a good evening, and shalom, shalom.
Shalom.